Dr. Rebecca Torres had just explained the thermodynamic anomalies in pulsar atmospheres when the alien ambassador slapped her across the face, not metaphorically, not diplomatically, not in any kind of elegant interspecies exchange of passive-aggressive disdain. No, Ambassador Valara of the Valari Supremacy, a bipedal crystalline species known more for academic arrogance than emotional volatility, had just slapped a human scientist in front of 17 broadcast cameras. And she'd done it during a science symposium. Rebecca didn't even flinch. There was a clatter as her stylus hit the floor, and then silence, so total it was almost violent. Valara's crystalline fingers were still mid-air, glittering faintly under the conference room's sterile overhead lights. The moment had been captured by at least 4 drones, 3 holofeeds, and a dedicated Valari documentary crew who were supposed to be filming a month of mutual discovery. Instead, they'd just documented a war declaration. A tiny green light blinked on Rebecca's data tablet. Live transmission active, confirmed across 17 worlds. The slap had gone viral before Rebecca even bent down to pick up her stylus. "Did you just—" Rebecca's voice was calm, dangerously so. "Strike me because you couldn't mathematically disprove my equations?" "It was not personal," Valara hissed. "It was corrective." Rebecca straightened slowly. "Oh," she said. "Well, in that case." Across the chamber, diplomats froze. The Sigellan envoys lowered their antennae. One Drellish archivist started packing up her scrolls with the speed of a fleeing librarian. The Andrelaxian observer in the corner activated some sort of teleport bracelet but couldn't get a signal, and the Galactic assistant chair, a frail little trilobe known as Yerki, whimpered so softly that only the corner mic picked it up. No one interrupted. No one moved, because everyone in that room knew one thing. You did not slap a human on camera. Not anymore. Not after what happened last time. Earth hadn't always been feared. A few centuries ago, humans were the loud newcomers in the galactic scene, all optimism, carbon-based ingenuity, and regrettable pop music. Their early council debates were filled with awkward missteps and the occasional incident with chairs, shoes, or diplomatic snacks being hurled across the room. But then came the Kirillin blockade, then the unspoken war, then the whispers. Nobody quite knew what Earth's full military capabilities were anymore, because Earth had stopped telling people. Their diplomats smiled. Their traders exported coffee, chaos, and confusing holiday decorations. Their cultural ambassadors hosted karaoke contests and insisted everyone try pineapple pizza at least once. But the moment you crossed a line, any line, something shifted. The smiling stopped. Signals were jammed. Stars went dark. And then one day, the Trask Armada just vanished. No one mentioned it. Not directly. But no alien species forgot. And now, Valara of the Valari Supremacy had slapped a human on a live intergalactic broadcast. And that human was smiling. Admiral Isaac Cho leaned forward in his command chair aboard the UNS Phantom Verge, watching the footage unfold with narrowed eyes. "She really took the slap well," he murmured. His communications officer, a sharp-eyed woman named Paige, sipped her coffee and didn't blink. "She's already submitted the transcript," Paige said. "Full audio, facial telemetry, emotion logs. She didn't even spike cortisol. That woman's either a war hero or a cold-blooded statistics professor." "She's a war hero and a statistics professor," said Isaac. "And if I know Torres, she's not going to retaliate. She's going to provoke." "Orders, sir?" Paige asked. Isaac didn't speak for a full 30 seconds. Then he tapped into the encrypted interlink and sent a single phrase, "Initiate protocol, Red Dawn." Across the solar system, satellite arrays shifted. Something hidden under Europa's ice shelf began to hum. A relay deep in the Kuiper belt blinked once and sent a signal faster than light, toward Alpha Deltora, toward Sectar's edge, toward the places humans were never supposed to reach. The humans weren't coming. They were already there. Back in the chamber, Rebecca tilted her head at Valara. "Would you like to try that again?" she asked softly. Valara sputtered, crystalline skin rippling in patterns of distress. You challenge the very laws of physics." "No," said Rebecca. "I just understand them better." She turned her eyes on the central broadcasting orb and smiled directly into it. "I believe this concludes the symposium," she said. I'll be filing a formal complaint with the Council Ethics Board, assuming it survives the week. Valara's breath crystallized mid-air. Are you threatening the Council? No, Rebecca said. I'm warning them. The door hissed open behind her, and a tall, grim man in dark Earth defense uniform entered. His boots echoed on the polished floor like distant thunder. No insignia, no introduction. Valara flinched instinctively. Is that, Yerke squeaked, is that a red-marked commander? Worse, whispered one of the Trask survivors. That's an observer. Rebecca nodded once to the man. Good timing, Blake. Commander Blake didn't blink. We've lost communications with 36 satellites. Earth wants to know. Do you want us to respond loudly or diplomatically? Valara's crystals flickered from indigo to a sickly orange. Outside the chamber, hundreds of delegates from over 90 species crowded the viewing plaza. The broadcast had cut. Rumors were flying faster than light. But in every sector, every quadrant, every satellite that had once pointed away from Earth was now pointing back, and they were listening. No one left the chamber, not because they didn't want to, but because no one wanted to be the first species to move after a human said, I'm warning you. Rebecca Torres sat back down, calm, professional, like nothing had happened. Ambassador Valara, on the other hand, stood rooted in place, shimmering faintly under the broadcast lights, her crystalline body language now unreadable to even her own kind. She opened her mouth twice, as if trying to summon a defense, then finally clicked out a single phrase. This was an overreaction. Commander Blake's voice was colder than the void between stars. Then Earth will underreact. That did it. The phrase, underreact, in human military parlance, was a code word that had surfaced after the Icaran incident. When the Terrans deliberately responded to an orbital bombardment with humanitarian aid, while simultaneously seeding black holes into the enemy's primary fuel lines 3 years later, without ever claiming credit, aliens called it a delay tactic, humans called it just being polite. Meanwhile, on Earth, social media exploded. Slapgate, Rebecca snaps back. Why you don't touch humans. By the time the symposium replay hit Earth's mainstream feeds, 3 meme compilations, 2 synth remixes, and a dramatic courtroom animation had already been uploaded. Rebecca's calm response was dissected frame by frame on every platform. Teenagers were duetting her head tilt. Even retired Marine General Beckwith commented, that woman's stare could halt a full invasion fleet. Respect. And then the full camera angle dropped, the slow-motion footage of Valara's crystalline hand connecting with Rebecca's face. Humanity's collective jaw clenched. At a quiet orbital base above Mars, the Terran Remediation Corps began sorting through old files marked Forgiven, Not Forgotten. One of them, labeled Valari Diplomatic Models, Structural Weaknesses, was quietly copied to the Interstellar Response Archive. In the Andes, deep beneath an inactive observatory, a buried server farm activated for the first time in decades. Its AI quietly ran a predictive model. Within 47 seconds it concluded, likelihood of interstellar escalation 94.7%. Back on the station, Rebecca turned to the Council. Let me be clear, she said, rising again. Earth will not respond with violence. We don't need to. The footage has already done more than any weapon. Chair Yerke shifted uncomfortably in his hoverpod. Doctor, Torres, please, perhaps if we issue a formal apology. To whom? Rebecca asked, raising an eyebrow. To Valara, for failing to slap me hard enough. Valara's shimmering exterior dimmed. A Jarkathi war envoy mumbled, it wasn't even a proper diplomatic strike, no glove. Silence, Valara snapped. But it was too late. The whisper of laughter echoed, human, alien, nervous. The tension broke like a bad weld. Rebecca crossed her arms. We're done here, Valara hissed. Earth will regret this humiliation. Earth doesn't do regret, Blake replied. We do payback, and jokes. Then he pulled a small object from his pocket. It was round, chrome, and looked suspiciously like a stress ball. Valara recoiled. Is that? No, Blake said, gently tossing it into the air. It's just a paperweight, but the fact that you flinched says everything. Rebecca smiled. And we do love symbolism. 3 hours later, a private message was delivered to every Valari high-ranking diplomat. No sender, no encryption trace, just 6 words. Your embassy carpets are flammable. Valari panic levels rose 48%. They sent an immediate delegation to Earth's lunar embassy. It was closed. By order of Earth Council, the sign read, "We'll talk when you're done panicking." Meanwhile, the council chamber struggled to restore order. Intergalactic representatives demanded protocol reviews, policy revisions, slap response doctrines. Rebecca went to lunch. She ordered a coffee, sat at a public cafe overlooking the core ring, and calmly started drafting her paper on quantum entanglement irregularities in aggressive diplomacy models. Half the cafe emptied when she sat down. The rest watched her like she was holding a live grenade. She sipped her drink. "Too much cream," she muttered. In Valari territory, things were unraveling fast. The Supreme Chrysarch summoned all regional military governors. "We slapped a human," she whispered, her voice fracturing the conference table with sheer tone. "Was the human important?" asked one governor. She held 3 doctorates, worked with Mars Stratcom, and was once photographed in the background of a restricted Operation Scorchlight image. Someone fainted. Another muttered, "We're going to die." The Supreme Chrysarch turned toward the window, watching the stars. "Not if we act first," she said. That was their second mistake. 2 fleets were dispatched toward Earth's solar system, quietly, not to attack, but to show strength, to reassert dominance. They didn't even make it past Saturn, because as soon as they hit the Kuiper Belt, every ship, every single one, went dark. No alarms, no transmissions, just silence. Then a single message returned. "Your ships have been returned to neutral space. One more incursion and we'll return the pilots too, by mail." The Valari pulled all remaining vessels back immediately. The message ended with a picture. Rebecca Torres holding a coffee mug that read, "Slapped but not silent." On the council station, Valara returned to her quarters. Alone. She watched the footage again, watched herself lose control, watched Earth's response spiral beyond containment, and she realized they hadn't retaliated with violence. They hadn't needed to. Earth had just shown her that sometimes the real weapon was letting your enemies watch themselves lose. She opened her diplomatic message console and stared at the blank screen. And for the first time in her life, she began typing the words, "To the people of Earth." Valara's message was never sent. It sat in the draft folder, blinking like a heartbeat. "To the people of Earth." That was all she had. The rest wouldn't come. No apology, no clarification, no excuses. She stared at the words, knowing instinctively that if she sent it now, it would already be too late. Because Earth wasn't waiting. They were preparing. The following morning, a packet of documents arrived on the desks of every Galactic Council species leader. The sender was listed only as Humanity's Interstellar Legal Representative. Inside the folder, a single-page treaty addendum. 1 clause, 1 sentence. Henceforth, any unauthorized physical contact with a registered Earth citizen in a diplomatic setting will be considered an act of war unless reciprocated with humor or sarcasm. The council chamber erupted. Is this a joke? Do they expect us to sign this? It says here that slapping a human is equivalent to invading one of their cities. One cautious ambassador flipped the page. On the back was a high-resolution photo of New Cairo, built in orbit over Mercury. A caption beneath it read, "The last time someone touched our diplomat without consent, we built this. In 6 days. From scratch." Meanwhile, on Earth, Rebecca Torres's inbox had collapsed. She had 132,457 messages. A handful were from Earth's own diplomatic council. Dozens more were from research students, military officers, and confused civilians asking if she had just started a war. One message simply read, "Marry me." I've never seen someone survive a level 4 slap without flinching. Another, "Hey Rebecca, long time no see. Remember that group project you failed me on in uni? I forgive you now." Rebecca ignored them all. Instead, she opened a secure connection to a classified orbital AI. "Hello, Theta Prime," she said calmly. The AI, which had no official name and appeared on Earth's records as a weather balloon monitoring station, responded, "Good morning, Doctor." "Torres, shall I release the simulation package?" She considered. "Not yet. Just send it to Earth's Council and wait. Done. Would you like to review the pre-approved response videos as well? Rebecca sipped her coffee. Only the funny ones. The AI sent her a batch titled, "The Slap Heard Round the Stars, Reaction Compilations." Elsewhere, the Valari supremacy was fracturing. Civilians were panicking. Earth's media had turned their race into a galactic punchline. On every screen, they were the butt of memes, skits, songs. Even children's cartoons had started referencing it. In one popular show, a Valari-looking creature slaps a stuffed animal. The stuffed animal immediately activates 400 missiles and roasts an entire moon. "Whoops," says the Valari. "Didn't know it was a human plushie." Merchandise sold out in 3 hours. Valari youth weren't laughing. They were terrified, because the rumors had started spreading. The Terrans weren't just building, they were remembering. And everyone knew, humans remember differently. At the edge of the galaxy, near the forbidden sector once called Replis Drift, an old listening station powered up. It was human-built, abandoned decades ago. Now the equipment stirred to life, not because of human activation, but because something else had pinged it. A ship, not a fleet, just one. Valari design, marked as diplomatic transport, but it was leaking power. The station AI scanned the interior, found 4 bodies, all dead, except the pilot. No, the pilot wasn't dead. The pilot had been slapped, repeatedly. Even their own race was now mimicking human retaliation. Back on the Galactic Council station, Chair Yerke called a private emergency meeting. Only 9 species attended. All the rest had gone silent. Some had blocked communication entirely, unwilling to be associated with what was now being called the Torres incident. Chair Yerke glanced around the room, his usually glowing scales dimmed with stress. "We must contain this before it escalates further," he said. Ambassador Kell of the Drexian Alliance shook his head. "Contain what? They've done nothing. That's the terrifying part." "Nothing," another said. "They blacked out our ships." Kell's voice dropped, and still called it a warning, not an attack. That silence returned, the kind of silence that felt like a countdown. Chair Yerke finally muttered, "So what's their next move?" Everyone turned to the one figure in the corner who hadn't spoken. A human, dressed in a simple grey suit, holding a data pad, Earth's true representative to the Council. They hadn't spoken publicly since the incident. Now, finally, they raised their head. "Next move?" they echoed, smiling faintly. "That depends." "On what?" Chair Yerke asked. The human flipped their pad around. It displayed a single line of text. "How hard did you laugh when she got slapped?" Every alien in the room went pale. On Valara's homeworld, martial law was declared. Their leaders weren't afraid of war. They were afraid of what wouldn't look like war, because the galaxy had seen what happened when Earth was actually threatened, and yet Earth hadn't retaliated. Not yet. Which meant they were still thinking, still watching, still planning. The Valari leader tried to record an apology. The first 10 drafts were rejected by her own people. Too cowardly, too aggressive, too human. Finally, she decided on a different strategy. "We will offer tribute," she declared. "Tribute?" her ministers echoed. "Yes," she said, "a gift, something to show our humility." One of her aides leaned close and whispered, "I think they prefer coffee." She blinked. "Very well. A moon-sized shipment of beans." The aide shook his head quickly. "Number just a nice roast, single origin, maybe a handwritten note." The leader buried her face in her hands. "They're mocking us in ways we don't even understand." Meanwhile, back in the orbital cafe, Rebecca received a small box, no return label. Inside, a premium Valari coffee blend. Attached was a note. "We now understand. Please accept this with our deepest apologies. P.S. We are deeply sorry for the slap. Our scientists have now categorized it as our species' worst diplomatic blunder in recorded history." Rebecca read the note, smiled, then looked up at the night sky above the station, eyes narrowing. "Let's see if they're actually scared enough." She turned to the AI behind the counter. "Send a message to Earth." "To whom?" it asked. "All of them." "What should it say?" She leaned back, sipped her drink, then spoke 5 words. "We're going to need popcorn." The Galactic Council called it containment. Earth called it entertainment. While Valari analysts scrambled to simulate every possible human military response, from diplomacy to doomsday devices, the human response remained terrifyingly consistent. They laughed, not maliciously, not mockingly, just amused, like a parent watching a toddler throw a tantrum with a toy gun. And that was what shook the Council the most. Somewhere in the Oort periphery, a Valari intelligence vessel intercepted a transmission. It wasn't encrypted, it wasn't even official, it was a live-streamed podcast, human-run, titled The Slap Breakdown, Earth Reacts to Galactic Nonsense. A young Terran host with bleached hair and a holographic dog opened the episode. "So she slapped a Terran scientist on live broadcast," he began, sipping something steaming. "And Earth's reaction was what? No nukes, no threats, just memes. Which, as we all know, is the first horseman of human psychological warfare." His guest nodded gravely. "Historically, our memes land about 2 weeks before our missiles." They laughed. Half the galaxy didn't. Valara turned to her aide. "How are they doing this?" Her aide blinked. "Ma'am, it's been 36 hours. They've already licensed the rights for 3 musicals, 2 dramas, and a romantic comedy based on your career." She groaned. "Tell me someone's preparing a real apology." "They are," he said. But, he hesitated. "It's not about what we say anymore. It's about when Earth stops laughing." That silenced her more than any threat could have. Deep inside Earth's Defense and Cultural Coordination Hub, codename Discord Prime, 12 humans sat around a table. They weren't military leaders, they were comedians, linguists, and chaos engineers. "What's the current public sentiment?" asked Dr. Anna Malik, a former stand-up comic turned memeologist. "Steady," replied the analyst beside her. "We're still in phase 2. "Remind me?" "Meme escalation without escalation." Another raised a brow. "Has the alien ambassador offered reparations?" "She sent 3 crates of chocolate, a lifetime subscription to Valari meditation channels, and a personal holo message reading, 'Please don't come to our planet.'" The room chuckled. "Okay," Anna said, flipping to the next page in the briefing. "Are we at war yet?" "Unofficially," another said. "The galaxy thinks we are, which is great. Let them sweat." Someone else chimed in. "Public polls back home say 87% of humans don't consider this an act of war. 92% consider it an entertainment genre." "Perfect," Anna smiled. "Then we launch Phase 3. Phase 3 was simple. Earth sent invitations. To who? Everyone. The Galactic Council, their media, even the Valari supremacy. The invitation read, "You are cordially invited to Earth's first intergalactic slap symposium. Learn about human humor, etiquette, and why physical violence in debate is deeply frowned upon, unless followed by interpretive dance or slapstick comedy. Venue, Earth dress code, flexible. Tone, hopeful and lightly sarcastic." The Council stared at it in disbelief. One ambassador finally asked, "Is this a trap?" A human observer shrugged. "Only if you hate awkward mingling and finger foods." Meanwhile, Rebecca Torres walked into a room that hadn't been unlocked in 15 years. The door scanned her face, then her palm. "Access granted. Rebecca Torres, Class 7. Inside sat a glass pod. Within it, a data crystal, only one. She picked it up. The label read, "Contingency, Galactic Public Humiliation Scenario." She blinked. "We actually made this a file." The AI overhead responded, "You did, Doctor. 3 years ago, after the fungal diplomacy pie incident." "Right." She slid the crystal into the console and waited. The screen lit up with a single instruction. Step 1, smile. Step 2, apologize for smiling. Step 3, begin cultural psychological offensive. She hit execute. The screen changed again, initiating Operation Cultural Checkmate. Within hours, hundreds of alien worlds began receiving care packages from Earth. Inside each, a USB of Earth's most confusing reality shows, a signed photo of Rebecca Torres with the quote, "Still standing. You?" A mysterious vial labeled Hot Sauce, Level 9, a plush slapstick toy with the words, "Press me," which when pressed said, "That was a terrible idea, Ambassador." On Valara Prime, the situation broke. Literally. In an emergency meeting, Valari citizens stormed their own public broadcast network, demanding an official apology and full surrender. They weren't afraid of war. They were afraid of becoming a punchline. No species ever survived being uncool to humans. The Valari leader stepped onto the stage. She took a breath and said, "On behalf of our people, we apologize, not just for the slap, but for underestimating Earth's terrifying ability to turn anything into a meme." Then she bowed to a camera, live, broadcasted across 19 sectors. Earth responded in kind. They sent a single video in reply. It was Rebecca Torres sipping coffee in silence for 20 straight seconds. Then she smiled and said one word, "Accepted." The video ended. The next morning, the slap was officially categorized under Earth's growing diplomatic lexicon as a Level 3 social catastrophe. Level 1, someone said moist. Level 2, someone spilled tea on a peace treaty. Level 3. This Level 4, unleashing a honey badger on the Galactic Council, incident still under litigation. And just like that, the incident faded from news cycles, but not from memory. Because aliens learned something that day. You could strike a human, you could insult them, you could even try to overpower them, but if you made them laugh, you had already lost. And if you were the joke, you wouldn't just lose a war, you'd become the mascot of one. In the aftermath of the slap, heard across 17 worlds, the galaxy hadn't crumbled, it had reshaped. No treaties burned, no battles erupted. Instead, something far worse happened, for the aliens anyway. Humans became popular, too popular. At the next quarterly Galactic Council session, nearly 60% of all attending species arrived in various forms of Earth-inspired fashion. One diplomat from the Rilthari Confederation wore a Rebecca Torres fan club sash over his ceremonial armor. The ambassador from Zelzan carried a vintage slapstick hammer, muttering something about learning Earth customs. And in the far corner, surrounded by camera drones, a line formed beside a merch stand. It sold plush slapping hands, mugs with hot sauce diplomacy written on them, and mini holograms of Rebecca dramatically dodging a slow-motion Valari slap. A Zarnathi media rep blinked at her hollow tablet. Sales of Earth-themed products have increased 800% since the incident. The other nodded. Slap coins trending again. Back on Earth, Dr. Rebecca Torres didn't feel like a war hero. She felt like a walking headline. News anchors begged for interviews. Students reenacted the moment at school plays. Someone even wrote a pop song titled Slapback Queen. But the real chaos was quieter. It was in the invitations. Every major alien university now wanted her to teach, not because they valued her science, but because they wanted to know how not to get roasted by humanity. "I'm not a comedian," she told the latest alien dean over a shaky Zoom-like call. "We don't care," the dean said, visibly sweating through purple forehead ridges. "We'll rename the astrophysics wing after you." "I'm not even retired," he leaned in. "Please, just tell us where to start. How do we apologize in Earth tone?" Rebecca sighed. "You can start by deleting the play your species made about slapping a human and calling it diplomatic precision." "Already removed," the dean nodded. "Burned, actually." In Valari space, something stranger bloomed. Humility. Valari citizens, once notorious for their diplomatic arrogance, now took public speaking classes with human consultants. A whole line of self-help books emerged, titled things like How to Not Get Slapped Back, Spiritually, Earthling Empathy for Dummies, From Slap to Applause, Rebuilding Galactic Trust. Their ships now broadcast passive messages like, "This vessel respects cultural boundaries." Their leaders opened peace talks with phrases like, "We deeply respect your traditions, especially humor." It wasn't fear, it was survival. If you couldn't laugh with humans, you'd be laughed at by them. And that was an extinction-level social threat. But something darker simmered underneath. A quiet truth the galaxy didn't talk about. Not publicly. Not yet. Because while most aliens feared embarrassment, a few realized something worse. That was Earth holding back. Because no nukes were launched, no warships deployed, no doomsday viruses unleashed. Just a smile, a meme, a message. You're not ready for the real fight. In a classified sector buried beneath Mars's southern pole, Admiral Reyes watched a private transmission with narrowed eyes. It was from the Council's secret intelligence branch. The message was short. Multiple civilizations are reverse engineering Earth humor algorithms. Others are simulating post-slap responses to gauge threat levels. Some fear a second incident could trigger actual retaliation. Reyes exhaled slowly. They think the slap was Earth's final warning. Beside him, Colonel Watanabe smirked. It wasn't even our first. He tapped a screen and pulled up a list of historical incidents. The Great Hamster Hoax of Luna, the Dance Battle Truce of Tau Ceti, the Karaoke Breakdown Treaty of Andaris 7th. Reyes cracked a rare grin. Let 'em guess. Rebecca eventually did travel off-world. Not for diplomacy, not for lectures, for a vacation, or so she claimed. She ended up in a quiet observatory moon owned by no faction, no alliance, no council, just a place to breathe. She sat beneath a glass dome, sipping alien tea, when a hologram shimmered to life beside her. It was Valara, the ambassador, the one who slapped her. Except now, she wore no regalia, no crown, just civilian robes and tired eyes. Rebecca raised a brow. Still flinching when you see coffee mugs? Valara smiled weakly. Only when they have my face printed on them. Rebecca let the silence hang for a moment, then said, "Why are you here?" Valara looked up. "To say thank you." Rebecca blinked. "For what exactly?" "The humiliation, the dance remix of my slap. For not striking back, for choosing grace, for teaching us the cost of arrogance." Rebecca sipped her tea. "I didn't do it for you." "I know." Another pause. Valara added, "We never understood humans. We still don't." Rebecca looked up at the stars. "Good." Valara tilted her head. "Why? Because the moment you think you fully understand humans, that's the moment you forget what we're capable of." She stood. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm late for my own surprise parade. Apparently, someone painted a 300-foot mural of me slapping the Milky Way." Valara watched her leave and whispered, "We deserved that." In time, the incident was archived under Earth's accidental cultural conquests. Beside entries like, "The time we taught aliens to dance and regret it," "That thing with the goose," "The Galactic Karaoke Night Treaty Breakdown," again, and of course, "The slap that changed the stars," because wars weren't always fought with guns. Sometimes they were fought with jokes, with grace under pressure, with humanity's oldest weapon, dignity sharpened by absurdity, and so the galaxy moved on. But not quite the same. Aliens now studied human sarcasm before opening trade deals. Diplomats hired Earth-born advisors to vet speeches, and every time a species thought, "They're just humans," they remembered the day the galaxy got slapped and laughed anyway. Because Earth didn't need to conquer the stars with ships, they could do it with a smirk.